Okay, good morning, everybody. We are in Parashat Chayei Sara. Parashat Chayei Sara is, of course, like all the parashat, a very interesting parasha. One of the interesting things is the way that the Torah describes the age of Sarah Imenu. Vayu Chayei Sara 100 shana, 20 shana, 7 shanim, Shnei Chayei Sara. Like the life of Sarah were 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Those are the years of Sarah. And, it's too many years written here. Shana, shana, shanim, shnei. We have it 1, 2, 3, 4 times years. And why not say just Sarah was 127 years old? And of course, there are a lot of explanations, but one of the explanations is to understand that in life, in every stage of life, you have the beauty of this stage. In other words, sometimes, I remember when you see sometimes in the streets, you see, let's say, elderly people going like with tattoos and cuckoo and all those things that young kids go, and it looks ridiculous. They look like a joke. From the other side, you have those young kids that go and play the game like on especially small girls, whatever. I don't want to go into it. That play the game like they're adults. And the beauty of life is that in every stage there is a beautiful time. And this is exactly what's written, by the way, also with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu is also written the same pasuk in Avraham Avinu. And Ele, I haven't got here by 1 minute, maybe I've got it here. All the same thing. The years of Avraham Avinu, 100 years, 70 years, and 5 years. Which is also very interesting to see that the same way of describing the life of Sarah, also the way the Avraham Avinu is being described. And this is also another interesting point, that we see that this couple, Avraham and Sarah, they were completely together as one. And the same parasha is written that Kodesh Baruch Hu adds a hey to the name of Avraham Avinu. In the same parasha, a few psukim later, Kodesh Baruch Hu is adding a hey to Sarah. It's called Sarai, now it's Sarah. And the same parasha that Sarah dies, Avram dies. And we see through their life how they were completing each other. And this is like a lot to learn, how to live your life in a beautiful way, to have this mutual understanding and feeling and the love that Avram and Sarah had. And when we're talking about the years, as we said, the beauty of Sarah and Avram was that they, in every age, they completed the mission of this age and enjoyed this age. They did the right thing in the right place, in the right time. And this is what we are, that's what we are supposed to do. And to understand and realize, it doesn't matter what age you are. For example, when we're talking about getting older. So when you go to an old age home, sometimes, a lot of times when you go to an old age home in certain places, especially where they are not religious, they have got nothing to do with the spiritual way of life, you see sometimes they like stirring the walls, and really, it doesn't look good. And from the other side, when you go to an old age home where you have Jews that are scholars or that learn Torah, that they are alive, it's a different thing. And the more they age, the more knowledge they've got, and the more satisfied they are with their life, because they know, as Sarah Imenu knows. And this is why the Pasha, which Sarah Imenu dies, is called Chayei Sara, the life of Sarah. Why is it the life of Sarah? She dies. But that's exactly the point. This world is not the real world. This is Alma de Shikra. This is a virtual world. You can call it whatever you want, but that's the real world, is the next world. In other words, as Shlomo HaMelech says, Tov Yom HaMavet Miyom Hivaldo. The day that you die is better from the day that you were born. Why? Because when you're born, you don't know what's going to be in your life, how you're going to behave, how you're going to achieve your goals, how you're going to achieve the closeness to God that you have to get. But when you go, when you finish your life, everybody knows, especially with Sarah Imenu, Avraham Avinu, everybody knew they completed their life in the best way they can. In other words, they're going to the next world joyfully and to have and enjoy a beautiful world that they prepared. And this is to understand that this world is only a limited world. It's like somebody came to visit the Chafetz Chaim, a very rich guy, And he was looking at the way the Chafetz Chaim was living, and he's telling to himself, wow, but this is the way you live. What? You are a Gdol Israel. You are the greatest guy in the generation, the greatest rabbi, and this is the way you live. So he's asking, why? Where are you staying? Where are you staying now? How do you live? He says, in my home? I've got no. He says, where do you stay now? He says, what do you stay in a hotel, in a pundak, whatever. I've got a bed, I've got a chair, I've got a thing, but in my home, when I go back home, wow, I've got the best stuff in the world, all the best furniture, the best appliances, everything the best. So Chafetz Chaim answered him and told him, yes, in my home, I've got also the best. This is not my home. This is at the hotel. Here I'm staying for a while. But the home that I've got, the next word, which is the internal home, there I've got gold and all the best appliances and all the best furniture, all the best of the best. And this is the right way to look at life. This is what the Torah is telling us in our Parashat. To see and understand that when we are making our life run after money and desires and all the materialistic things, this is not going to last. Doesn't go with us to the next world. We have to fill our life with the best stuff that there is. I said that Abraham Avinu Baba Yamim, he's going in the days. And I always remember a rabbi who used to tell, a guy has to look at his life and see that in every day he does something good. It sounds, wow, how can we do good every day? It's simple things. They say about one of the greats, I think it was I don't remember the name, a famous rabbi. And one day there was a contagious illness in the family, so he took the kids to his mother in order to look after them, that they won't get this illness. And on the way, he meets another rabbi. He says, well, where are you going? He says, I'm going to take my kids to my mother because we've got a contagious illness, and I told her I don't want them to get it. He says, well, what are you doing? I explain. It says again. I see. The cow takes the small. How do you say? The big animal takes the little animals to the. He was insulted. Wow, how do you say? Well, I says, no, you didn't understand what I'm saying. You have to understand, when you take your kids, though they are your kids, you're not like an animal. You're doing a mitzvah. A mitzvah, and this is a mitzvah. And everything you do, even in your own home, this can be a mitzvah. It's the intention that is important. When you do something, you need to put the good intention in, and then you did another mitzvah. When he came back home, at that time, they didn't have running water at home. They had a place where they used to take a bucket and fill up the water. So he sees his wife with 2 buckets of water going home. So he runs and he says to himself, I'm going to do a mitzvah of chesed with a Jewish woman. By the way, she is my wife. So what? It's still a mitzvah. And he took the 2 buckets of water. And this is every day when we do something with our children, with our grandchildren, with our family, whatever, with our neighbors, with our friends. Everything we do can be a mitzvah. But we need to have the intention to understand what are we doing here and collect more and more mitzvahs. And then if you think this way, yes, every day, at least what I took on myself, that at least every day, one good thing I have to do. So when I come to the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he's going to ask me, what have you done at that day? I said, okay, I did. Okay, maybe I didn't do a lot, but I did some good. So this is to fill your life in the good things and understand and realize what is the real meaning of life. A lot of times in life, we don't understand really what it's all about. And when we look at things, the way they look, I'm writing this Shabbos on Amatat Chesed. Amatat Chesed is, I don't know how you say it in English. Amatat Chesed, I think, 1 minute, let me check that. Maybe I'll check it for a minute. 1 minute. How did I call it? This is very interesting. 1 minute.
Euthanasia.
Euthanasia. You know what it is, euthanasia? It's to let's say somebody is connected to the machine and he lives only because of the machines, and he's got no quality of life, so they disconnect him from the machine and he dies. This is called Amatat Chesed. like this is merciful, I don't know how to say it, merciful killing, which is in Judaism, there is not such thing. But recently there was a whole story that was going on and on with a baby that had an illness and in London, and it was connected to the machines. And the hospital decided they're going to disconnect her. There was a whole fight and a lot of money involved, but eventually they disconnected her. And this brings us to this interesting question, how the world looks at life and how in Judaism we look at life. And that's exactly the understanding of Sarah Imeinu. Year and year, Shana, Shnata, it's to tell us that there is, let's say, a double quality in our life. That's Ma'arat HaMachpelah, by the way. Ma'arat HaMachpelah, it's kaful, it's double. Double, Ma'arat HaMachpelah, it's double. It's like double because you have this world and the next world. And this is what Sarah Imeinu was doing in Avraham Avinu. They were living in two worlds. Whatever they did here, they knew that it's got an influence on what's going to happen there. And this is the way we have to understand that every minute in life is important, because we don't know the quality and the reward that's going to wait for us. And this is, by the way, a year and a half ago, I think, I don't know when, maybe it's already 2 years, before the Quran, when the Quran just started, I've been in a furniture exhibition in Poland, in Poznan. And I realized during our stay there that there was the first death concentration camp in Poznan. It was this castle, and that they started the experiments how to kill people in the quickest way and the cheapest way. This is where they started the gas chambers, and you know how it all started? With Amatat Chesed. They decided that everybody who hasn't got, let's say, is ill, or even mentally ill. And then it was going on those who didn't want to go with the German regime. So they just killed them, put them in hospital, put them in those jails, or those concentration camps, and killed them. And then they called it Amatat Chesed. They were merciful, because there is no quality of life. This guy is suffering. So they killed him. And eventually it got to what we know, the Holocaust. In other words, to understand what is quality of life. There was the Rabbi Natan Finkel, there was the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir. He was an ill person. And there was this rich guy that he met years, Alav Shalom, Zichrono Livracha. And when he was collecting money for Yeshiva, he came to this rich guy in the States, I think. And after he left, the rich guy approached one of the guy that was going with the Rabbi, said, I don't understand, how do you let a guy like this so ill let's say to handle a yeshiva? You need somebody that's got strength, is healthy, not an ill guy. Years later, when the Yeshivat Mir was becoming, well, I think today, I think it's the biggest yeshiva in the world. Thousands of students learn there, thousands. And he came to visit, and they took him to the humble room that the Rav Natan Finkel was staying. And he saw this guy that he met years ago, and he was controlling this whole operation. He was doing everything. And he is the one who was in charge of everything. And he just told him, you know, I regret the words I said years ago. I didn't understand the power you've got in you. He gave him an open check. He says, you write here whatever you want. Because I believe that you are the sample of the power, the inside power of a Jewish neshama. And this is exactly what in the world they don't understand. The quality of life, the essence of life. The quality of life in us is like in the world they say time is money. Time is not money. Time is Torah. Time is doing good things. That's time. That's why we use time. People sometimes invest, they buy a watch that costs 100,000 shekels, 150,000 shekels, wasting their money on a clock that shows the time while they are really wasting their time. Instead of buying a clock and wasting money on something that shows you the time, use the time in the best way you can. Unfortunately, people sometimes, either they believe in what they see, And what they don't see, they don't believe it. And sometimes they want to be spiritual, so they think they can be 100% spiritual, don't have to do anything. But we all know both ways are wrong, because here in this world, we have to connect the spiritual side with the physical side. For example, how can you love your kid without hugging and kissing him? Can you? Is this real love? Well, I'm loving him. I'm in a spiritual way, I love him. You have to do something. How can a woman love her husband and a husband love his wife, not showing it? She is going to live in Yerushalayim, he's going to live in Ra'anana, and they're loving each other through the air, through the spiritual way. Can this be? Can this exist? Of course not. So we have to understand that we cannot just have it. This is a lie to say I am spiritual. It's like in other, let's say, religions. For example, the Buddha, the Bedouin, what do I say? The Buddha, the Indian, they sit on a mountain, and the monk there sits there with himself and with God. This is not Judaism. You have the Catholic that they don't get married because they want to be spiritual. It's also not our way. Our way is to combine both. From the other side, there are those that say, whatever I see is there. What I don't see doesn't exist. And there is this famous story I told you once about this teacher in the communist, when there was when they had still the communist party ruling the Soviet Union, and they were against the belief in God. And they educated their kids this way. And one day, this teacher comes to the class, and he tells the kids, he wants to prove them that there is no God. So what is he doing? He's taking, showing the whole time, what is this? And everybody sees the pen. He says, you see this pen? So it's a pen. Then he takes a book. Says, do you see the book? Says, yes, we see the book. If you see the book, there is a book. Takes glasses. Do you see the glasses? If you see the glasses, there are glasses. Do you see God? No. If you don't see God, there is no God. So there was a little Jewish guy, a Jewish student, Jewish kid, whatever, and he raised his finger, says, teacher, can I also give a sample? The teacher was happy. Of course, bevakasha. So he starts and says, do you see this pen? Says, you see? So there is a pen. Then he says, do you see the papers? Oh, so there are, means if you see the papers, there are papers. And he takes his briefcase. Do you see my briefcase? So you see it. Well, it means his briefcase. Do you see the brain of the teacher? Says no. So it means that the teacher's got no brain. And this is the way, it depends. If you really, really understand that in this world, we have to connect the inside with the outside, the physical part with the spiritual part. This is the way we are built. This is why the Torah is telling us about Chayei Sara. This is why we're seeing, when we're looking about chesed, how to be people of chesed, how to be, do the right thing. So we see the way Avram Avinu trusts Eliezer, his slave, his servant, with everything. Moshe b'chol asher hu. Everything, he has got the keys for the safe. He controls the whole thing. When it gets to the point that he sends him to find a wife for his son, Yitzchak, he makes him swear. Why? Why, when you talk about everything you trust in and this you don't trust in? And then we see what Eliezer is doing, which is also a thing by itself. But one of the interesting things, Eliezer is doing a test, which is unreasonable. Does he really looking for a girl that is going to give him water and to 10 camels? Do you know how long a camel drinks and how much he can drink? 10 camels? And nevertheless, when she tells him, okay, I'm going to give you to drink, and then I'm going to drink water to all your 10 camels. And he's there with 10 servants, with 10 slaves that are leading those 10 camels. And they're all standing like this, looking at this young girl carrying the buckets with the water backwards and forwards, and nobody does anything. Is das nicht a chutzpah? Why don't you help her? She told you she's going to do it, so help her. And only when she finishes, it says, he said, oh, that's the girl. You know why? First of all, you know, there are a lot of people that say a lot and do nothing. And this is exactly what he was afraid of. So that this young girl is telling me that she's going to give water to 10 camels, just like this. This is unbelievable. So from one side, why did you ask? Why did you wait for a test like this? And from the other side, why don't you believe now what she tells? Because there are two things here. In order to bring a wife to Yitzchak, and from this eventually comes Yaakov and Am Yisrael. This is a house of Abraham is not a simple house. There you have to be a special shidduch that knows how to do chesed with everybody. And at the level of chesed of Abraham Avinu, that sits in its tent after a brit milah and waits for visitors to come, for guests. So we asked this thing, but he really inside maybe doesn't believe that there is a girl. Suddenly this girl comes and the girl is telling I'm going to do it. So he says, maybe she's also from those who talk a lot, but do nothing. So he waits. And when he sees it's all finished, he says, wow, this is the girl. And he gives him the present even without asking who she is. Only afterwards he's asking. Because he realized this is the chesed that he's looking. This is unbelievable. God helped him to find the right girl for Yitzchak. So we understand what is important and what is not important. People in life do let's say, to trust somebody, they trust him with everything. But it gets to money, they don't trust him. Avraham Avinu, the opposite. He trusts Eliezer with everything. When it gets to spiritual things, he doesn't trust him. It's like this Rabbi, a famous Rabbi, came to this hostel, whatever it was at that time, a small hotel, and a Jewish place. And this guy sees this rabbi sees a blonde bird, so he comes to him. Can you maybe? I have a few chicken to do shchita mahamach, so to do. So he says, I'm not a shochet. What do you want from me? I cannot do this. And then 10 minutes later, he gets to this owner of the hotel. Can you loan me $10,000? Says, well, I don't know you. Why should I lend you $10,000? Says, 2 minutes ago, you would give me to lishchot, to give me to do shchita, if you don't even know if I am a shochet, if I know how to do it, and maybe you will feed everybody with straightness. But now you don't know me? But that's exactly the point. People are checking things, and important for them is the physical side of life. But it comes to the spiritual side, sometimes they forget. Because, yes, we live in this world, and it's very hard to not be influenced by what's happening. But this is exactly what the Torah is telling us. The Torah is telling us, Sarah, she was all from the inside like the outside. Her beauty, she was one of the most beautiful women in the world. But the beauty was an inner beauty that shined outside. But sometimes in life, you have people that look only on the outside. When Eliezer went, Rivka was also a beautiful woman, but that wasn't the important point. The important point is she suitable from the spiritual point of view? And this was the test. And this is the life of Sarah Imeinu, telling us, Ele, 1 minute, let me find it again. נתנו חיי שרה 100 שנה ו20 שנה ו7 שנים, 2 חיי שרה. This is what the Torah is trying to tell us. The Torah is telling us the life of Sarah were full and complete, and she was filling up all these things for the next world. She lived double life. In other words, she understood that every action she's doing in this world has got an influence on the next world. And this is the way she lived. And this is the way we should live, to understand and realize the beauty of this world, that here we can achieve tremendous things if we realize, understand that with the smallest thing that we do, to have the right intention, to do the right way, the way of the Torah. And this is going to give us this unbelievable reward in the next world. So, Bezrat Hashem, I wish for all of us to live our life the way that Sarah and Abraham Avinu lived, the way that we realize that the action we take in this world have an influence on the next world. In other words, every action has a double meaning, a meaning here in this world and a meaning in the next world. And if we do things in the right way, understanding what it's all about, understanding that the inside is more important than the outside. And what you see from the outside is not always what's on the inside. And Bezrat Hashem, when we live like this, what will going to wait us in the next world is an unbelievable world. All the best.